Okay, good morning everybody. Hope you guys had a really good weekend. Hope everybody's still feeling healthy and happy. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about applications of systems of equations, because of course I wouldn't want to teach you something without showing you where you might get to use it someday. So I know that word problems are a little scary sometimes, but we're going to step through these. I'll give you 4 steps. We'll practice, and then I'll have you guys do a little on your own. So remember, systems of equations are where we have 2 or more equations with 2 or more variables. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to define our 2 variables. Then we're going to write a system of equations. Don't let that scare you. You're just going to write 2 equations that go with those 2 variables. And then we're going to solve the system. We have 3 ways to do that now: graphing, substitution, and elimination. And then we're going to answer it. We're going to make sure that the answer makes sense. So before I go on, let me just remind you guys that I need to see your work in order for you to get full credit. So as you see your grades going in to the grade book, or as you are receiving your grades as I grade them on Teams, please know that if you are being docked any points and you haven't shown your work, that's probably why it is. Also, I'm going to have to start entering zeros for people that are not submitting their work, just so that you guys are reminded that it's out there and it's still due. But that is not by any means written in stone. You're always welcome to hand in assignments. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to take a look at number 5. I know I always start with numbers 1 and 2, and those are the easy ones, and then I give you guys the other ones, and that kind of doesn't seem to make sense. So let's start down here with number 5. So the first thing we need to realize is we have 2 numbers. What do you want to call them? That's up to you. That's why they're called variables. You get to use the variables you want to. So the sum of 2 numbers is x plus y. Okay? So we'll have x is the first number. Y will be our second number. This is called defining our variables. And what do we know about x and y? The sum of them is 20. X plus y equals 20. The difference between 3 times the first number, oh my, the difference between 3 times the first number, okay, so difference is going to be a very important concept here. If I asked you what's the difference between 5 and 3, you would say 2. And how did we get that? We subtracted. So the difference between, now we're going to do 3 times the first number. Now what is our first number? That's x. 3 times the first number and twice the second number. The difference between them, if I subtract, is 40. Okay? So now look, we have a system of equations. You can totally ignore the word problem, and you can just look at this and say, okay, how do I solve this system of equations? Well, we could graph it, but they're not really set up for graphing, and guess what? I'm guessing you guys don't have graph paper at home. We could use substitution. If I knew what y was equal to or what x is equal to, I could use substitution. Or I can use elimination. But in order to use elimination, I'm going to have to make this x match up with that number there, or that y match up with that number there. Now, since they're opposite signs here, I'm going to say, guess what? If I multiply this equation by 2, then I'll have 2x plus 2y is equal to 40. Okay? So now, if I add these 2 equations together, what am I going to get? Well, 3x plus 2x is 5x. Negative 2y plus 2y is 0. And 40 plus 40 is 80. Good thing we weren't subtracting there, huh? Otherwise I'd have a 0 over there. So now I just have to divide both sides by 5. And we're going to get x is equal to, let's see, 5 goes into 8 one time. 8 minus 5 is 3. That'd be 30. It goes in there. So I'm believing that x is 16. So What do we know about our two numbers? We know that when we add them together, they equal 20. Well, if x is 16 and x plus y is equal to 20, so this would be 16 plus y is equal to 20. So y needs to be equal to 4. And we can also check this because the difference between 3 times the first, well, 3 times 16 is 48, and twice the second, so 2 times this is 8, and the difference between 48 and 8 is 40. So always check it and make sure it makes sense. So, two linear equations, they intersect at one spot, and the coordinates of that spot are 16 and 4. Okay, keeping this video short. I'll meet you on the flip side.